Herbivores would be followed by omnivores. So cows come in, graze the grass, poop everywhere. They leave. Flies come in and are attracted to the poop, and then they leave. And then like a day or two later, the chickens come in where the fly larva has hatched. They spread the poop out all over the ground. And
they eat the fly larva.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Hey, it's Andy Petronic, and welcome back. This is episode number 146 of the Andy Petronic Podcast. This is where it's my job to talk health, life, and well-being with the foremost leaders in the field, giving you the joy, knowledge, and inspiration you need to live your best life. Coming up on the episode today, I'm having a conversation with Charles Mayfield. He's the author of the best-selling series called Paleo Comfort Foods. He's also a full-time insurance salesman, a father of two, and, most interestingly, a regenerative farmer. But first, let's talk about a few other things. I am going to be going, I just decided this, that I'm going to be going down to San Diego to something called the Mindshare Summit. It's JJ Virgin's event. It's 3 days. I just put it out there to let you guys know that I will be there, and if any of you are planning on attending, I'd love to connect with you. It will have a lot of well-known movers and shakers in the health, well-being, and transformation business, like self-improvement business. In fact, I was just thinking about, I have to leave that night. I don't have to, but I'm leaving from San Diego to go to Chicago. And Brendan Bouchard is the closing speaker on Sunday afternoon. And I just decided to not leave early in order to see him speak. I have to take the red eye. That means to Chicago. But, that's what happens. So that's coming up. I just had a conversation today, actually, with an upcoming podcast guest. His name's Kevin Rose, and he's got an app. It's a meditation app. It's called Oak, and it's really cool. It's got a lot of really awesome sounds for like background sounds while you're meditating. And he shared with me that those are actually recorded by a sound engineer. They're not synthesized. He's got a guy who actually puts the microphones up, and when you hear raindrops hitting a tin roof, it's actually raindrops hitting a tin roof, which is cool. I want to remind you too, as we go through the summer, I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to, I get hot. I feel like I get a little lazy in the summer. It's weird. Maybe it's because by the middle of the day, which is when I usually like to work out, I'm already hot and don't feel like getting hotter. Maybe? I don't know. But I tend to have a tendency to blow off workouts. And there's nothing better than to have a 10-minute go-to body weight workout you can do without any equipment, without really any preparation. It's just 3, 2, 1, off you go. And I have a series of them. I've done one a week now I've got 31 episodes, and you can access all of them. The easiest place to find them is on my website, andypetronic.com/workouts. I think, is it workouts or workout? I need to figure that out. I'm going to do it right now. I think it's workouts. Yeah, it's workouts with an S. And you can find them, try them, play with them. They're follow-along videos on YouTube, so there you go. I wanted to remind you guys about that. And you can also, when you're on my newsletter, when you're on my website, you can sign up for my monthly newsletter. It's not frequent enough that it's annoying, and it's full of stuff that I'm thinking about or researching or playing with or discovering. Most of it's actionable, so it hopefully will introduce you to new things to think about or watch, new fun things. couple of my upcoming guests, I already told you that Kevin Rose is going to be on. I'm not sure yet of the date, but soon, actually before Kevin, I've got a few other people. Kevin Carter, former Super Bowl champ, huge philanthropist, and probably most importantly to him anyway, and I think to the world, is his role as a husband and father. So he's coming up. I've got Josh Mance coming up, who has the unique experience of having died and then come back to life. He spent 15 minutes dead, clinically dead, and then came back to life with full-on cognition and full-on no brain damage, everything, like good to go. He was an Army vet, and this happened when he was in Baghdad. So I have a really compelling conversation with him coming up. And then Dr. Mark Goulston, he's a psychiatrist, and he's on a mission. He's written 5 books. One of them is sitting on my desk right here. It's called Talking to Crazy. But he's on a mission to help others help themselves by changing how they hear things and then how they relate to other people. And he's done amazing things like hostage negotiation. He helped train the FBI in hostage negotiations. He works with people who are suicidal. I mean, he's got a lot of really amazing things to contribute to the world. In a lot of ways, the podcast, the conversation we have is really full of useful things you could apply in your life. And he doesn't hold back in recommending things for me. Let's just put it that way. But I wanted to now introduce you to today's podcast guest. And Charles and I go way back in the world of CrossFit. The first little bit of the podcast, we talk about our background both in CrossFit. And the reason it's relevant is that's how he got started down this road of both being a author of a best-selling cookbook. It was one of the first cookbooks ever published in the paleo world, Paleo Comfort Foods. And now he's got a series of them. He's got, I think there are 4 out total. In fact, their most recent one is, I think it's called Weekday Paleo. I should know what that is. But it's really, really useful stuff for parents, especially moms and dads, who during the week need quick and easy go-to recipes that are paleo and or healthy. So, but he's a very normal guy who is an insurance agent, but he's committed to providing amazing food and resources for health to his kids. He's got 3 kids, a 23-year-old and then a 5 and a 3-year-old. And he's a regenerative farmer. And if you've ever read The Omnivore's Dilemma, you know that Joel Salatin is also a regenerative farmer. Joel's been doing it quite a lot longer. Charles is kind of a neophyte. And like he's been doing it for 2 years. And did I say Joel has been doing it for 2 years? Charles has been doing it for 2 years. And he is it's just really cool to hear how a quote-unquote normal human can go into farming. I mean, you need the land, but you can do a version of this yourself, whether it's gardening or actually having livestock. You need a little bit of space, but other than that, there's a point at which you got to just take action and go for it. And he describes a lot of how he does it and how much he loves it. And we talk a lot. He tells us a lot of funny stories about life on the farm and how his kids deal with things like death of animals, and which they do surprisingly well. And it just gives you a lot of insight into, gosh, what is available to us. And regenerative farming is a method of farming that is probably the most responsible method of taking care of land and land management that there can be, by rotating crops and rotating the animals. And it's really fascinating how that occurs. So I'm not going to beat around the bush. Let's get Charles in here. We have a really fun, compelling, informative conversation. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Charles Mayfield. Bring it on. Welcome to the podcast. I've been really looking forward to reconnecting with you since we re-met each other at Paleo FX a few months ago.
That was really fun, man. It was good to see you. And I think the last I was noodling around in my head. I think the last time I actually physically saw you was at the 2009 CrossFit Games.
Wow.
You were there.
I was in it. I was in the CrossFit. I don't remember much about seeing anyone because I was so kind of, focused on being in it. Even afterwards, like I remember there were a lot of people there and I saw a lot of people, but I don't have a lot of very specific memories of conversations or, anything else.
Oh, and you wouldn't. I was not competing. I was cheering on. And
I mean, that was back when the movement was still like, grassroots. What do you call it? What do you like a festival? It's just a
Well, I think that was the last year at the ranch.
It was, Aromas.
Yeah. So Miko was the winner, I believe.
He was. I met him before the game started, and I kind of connected with him. We talked for like 5 minutes behind the backdrop of the stage where all the athletes are getting together. I had no idea. No idea who he was. No idea that I was talking with the future winner of the CrossFit Games. No idea what kind of badass he was. He was just a super nice guy.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of chatting about, I told him I'm nervous and he told me he was nervous and, So it was cool that happened before I had any idea who I was actually meeting and talking to.
Yeah, he's a stud, man. Everybody was. I mean, it was phenomenal to witness that. I can't even imagine the field now. It's, of course, they've tightened up the sieve a little bit in terms of funneling people to the final games.
Well, it was phenomenal. Tremendous. It was phenomenal to be in it back then because to me, CrossFit then was about health and well-being, and the tip of the spear, which was the games, was just a kind of a byproduct of if you train regularly and well, that the elite will rise, the cream will rise to the top. Not that that's any better than anyone else, because I think anybody that's doing CrossFit is actually doing a great thing for their bodies for the most part. But that's kind of how it was. That's how I did. I didn't even really train. When I qualified, I was literally just, I'm like, people would ask me, are you training for regionals? And I'm like, not really. I'm just going to do my normal thing and go down and see what happens. And I, ended up qualifying for the games. I mean, today, that's just not possible. I couldn't even a year after, I couldn't have remotely hoped to qualify for the CrossFit Games. It changed so quickly.
Oh, yeah. Well, and okay, so that was the last year in Aromas. That was also the first year that they actually did regionals.
That was, because the year before that, I produced sectionals in Southern California, and it was an amazing event at UCLA. People still talk that were in that event, still talk about that being one of the coolest experiences they've had, because they gave the event producers full range to do whatever they wanted. So I got to create the workouts. I got to create, because I knew the venue, and I built the workouts around the venue. We were running up and down the stairs of the stadium. We used every part of the track. We used the field in the second day. It was a really cool approach, to be able to do that. And they systematized it, standardized it, and made that not possible anymore. So, progress. I guess it's progress.
I always told people that was back when I felt like the CrossFit embodied get the most out of the absolute least. Yes. It was kind of like that minimum effective dose, and it's still a great mechanism to get people moving and active, and there's a lot of great CrossFit gyms out there.
Yep. But that's not why you're on the podcast to talk about that. Although I could just reminisce with you for probably a long time.
We can try.
I want to talk about what you do, because I'll tell you, I've always been, I don't know if intrigued or interested in. I'm not interested in it enough yet to take real action. But I've always been very enamored with and think is very, very cool. The idea of having a farm or a garden or a feeding my family out of the soil right in my backyard. Like,
sure.
Very intriguing. It's funny because about 5 years ago, I sectioned off a little plot in my backyard, and I created a raised bed garden. Yep. And brought in the soil. I had a handyman, like, put in the boundaries of it for me. And I planted tomatoes and onions and some sort of lettuce. I think it might have been spinach. And I read a book called not the 5-Minute Gardener. It was a system of making these little...
Square Foot Gardener.
Square Foot Gardener. The Square Foot Gardener. Yeah. I read the Square Foot Gardener. I created my little grid, so I had a little system that I was going to use. And I actually got a really big kick out of growing stuff until bugs and rats and things started getting eaten. And then I realized, well, wait a second. I'm supposed to eat this stuff. And I realized I couldn't eat it fast enough when it came to ripen. And then I'm like, well, what do I do with it? And then I'm like, I guess I could take it and give it away to people. And that created more of a hassle. So I ended up, I did it probably 3 years in a row. I think I grew snap peas. I had a trellis,
Yeah.
But I stopped doing it because it became, this is just something to do to watch plants grow rather than something that actually became useful in my family's life, which is what I thought, that was my intention when I started. Yeah. And so I stopped. But man, when we reconnected and you told me a little bit about what you've got going on in your household, and I know your focus is more on meats than it is necessarily on vegetables and greens, but it just rekindled that inner sense of that being able to provide for your family, not just financially, but in every way. I mean, you're doing it, and I love that.
We're trying. It's a lot of fun, and I actually grew up with gardening. Sort of, my mom sort of bestowed a little bit of a green thumb on me, so the gardening thing is there. It was funny listening to your story. I think everyone's gardening story, if you could, sort of pocket it into silos, sort of starts and finishes along the same lines. It's like, this is really cool. I'm going to try it. Oh, there's bugs and pests that come in. Oh my God, I've got to figure out how to eat 12 pounds of kale in the next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
What the hell do you do?
So
how did you get started doing this? I mean, what came first? Was it your writing of the Paleo Comfort Foods, or was it your kids, or like how did you manifest this whole piece in your life?
So, well, it's probably, it's like many things. It's a sequence of events. CrossFit introduced me to my wife. And then that in turn, I got hurt. I was, not to regress, but I was pretty. The programming, let's just say the programming for the regionals in 2009 was absolutely all the way up to the final workout, even at the games, was in my wheelhouse. If you remember, it was fairly light. It was a couple of heavy things, but fairly light.
Yep.
Lots of volume, tons of volume, even in the regionals.
Did you? Were you in the regionals? Did you compete in the regionals? No,
I hurt my back I ruptured L4-5, L5-S1 in like February of 2009. Okay. And that was no bueno.
Yep.
Or actually, it might have been a little earlier than that. But anyway, so that's an important thing, because I went from working out a ton to working out none, and that sort of got us on the CrossFit at the time had the nutritional certification, which Rob taught.
Yep.
So we went down to Jacksonville and got anointed under the guise of CrossFit nutritional certification. But Rob was at the time, obviously a lot of stuff was very zone based, and we were. That's actually sort of how my wife and I met. We did some zone challenges, and we like to cook. So cooking's obviously a big part of growing your own food because it sort of connects a couple things together. But we were both big cooks. We organized a food swap. This is many moons ago. In fact, one of your other interviewers, Amber Lewis with The Good Kitchen.
Yeah.
We all sort of knew each other through this same gym, BTB.
Oh,
in Atlanta.
cool. Oh, I didn't know that.
So I love listening to your interview with her because it was like, trips down memory lane.
Yeah, right.
Even prior to Amber and Carter coming into the mix, well, actually, it was right about that time. Anyway, we were all zoning, right? And you got to weigh and measure everything. So
yep.
We came up with this crazy idea to, all right, everybody, you go weigh and measure one big meal. Like you go make whatever, chicken curry, and somebody else will make chili. And so everybody makes one huge portion of one meal. And then we would meet at the gym on Sundays and, block it up, package it all up in blocks and swap meals. So anyway, we were heavy zone proponents, went to Jacksonville, talked to Rob. Rob kind of talked me off the ledge of weighing and measuring everything and just recommended trying, just try this paleo thing. And so Julie and I came home and started tinkering with paleo as just sort of a means to maintain, body composition in light of a lot less activity. And over the course of the next year or two, I guess a year and a half, we would email Rob recipes. We did this shrimp and grits, but it's not grits; it's faux grits. We just corresponded. And let's see, let me get this date right. I want to say it was fall of 2009. Was it fall? No, it was maybe 2010. Rob's book came out, and he was in Atlanta.
Yep.
He was. In fact, he had just released. He did a nutrition talk at BTB, which is where he met Squatchy. If I know you and Rob know each other pretty well. Squatchy's one of his right hand man. He met Squatchy at BTB.
Really?
Anyway, he does his book release. We had cooked a bunch of food for Rob and Nikki and Melissa and Jeff, all of our friends, and his book had just come out, and his publisher was just absolutely hammering him to write a cookbook. Well, he didn't want to write a cookbook, and so we're all, we've got a couple of NorCal margaritas in our system.
Had he talked you off the ledge at this point from the zone, and you were following more paleo? Then?
Yeah. We were still. I think at the time I was blocking my protein. That was the one thing I paid attention to, but everything else was just real food. Very paleo. So so the book sprung from that. That ultimately got us in the paleo community. Our book came out in 2012.
Now, had you guys ever written a book before?
No.
So how did you know what you were doing? How did what? Write a book?
Well, okay, so it's a cookbook.
Yeah. So
you're writing recipe. Listen, it was hard as hell. We had 3 books now, and they're all unique and fun. But at the end of the day, it's just writing recipes.
Well, but there was a lot more. There was a lot more in your book than just recipes. Come on.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, there is. Julie's a very talented writer. Very talented. She was at the time she was working for the American Cancer Society, and she did most of the content development for their newsletter. And that's a national, really international organization. So she's very, very gifted in that regard. You write a recipe. The first book was really interesting because that was really our regurgitation, if you will, of a lot of the recipes we've been tinkering with for the last 18 to 24 months, plus our paleo spin on some classic, comfort food recipes. So the original name of our book was going to be Redneck Paleo, from the trailer park to the cave, or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was like country.
Yeah.
It was like,
that's a transformational, your book, the title transformation that's pretty drastic.
Well, I think at the time, Jeff Foxworthy was very, very prominent in the comedy scene. You might be a redneck if I don't remember how we got there, but I'm glad we got to comfort food.
Yes, I am glad too.
So yeah, that was what got us into the paleo thing. And then, so paleo, let's see, the Ancestral Health Symposium, our first one, maybe the first one ever, was in maybe the spring of 13. And then the Paleo FX cranked up. That might have been 2012.
Yeah.
12 might have been. I need to go back and check my facts. But anyway, so we started attending that. Obviously, we were part of that community with our cookbook, and got a lot more involved.
Did your book? How long did it take you to write the book, and then how successful was that, and how quickly?
Oh, I would say, to be fair, I'd say it took us all in probably 18 months to write the first book.
Yeah.
That's probably 8 months of hyper-focused work, and then a collaboration of the rest of our lives prior to that.
Yeah, right.
Recalling. So
who did the photos for the book?
A good friend of ours from BTB, Mark Adams, a friend of ours. That's actually a funny story. We were going to do the photos ourselves, and Grizz, we call him, Mark Adams. He wanted to go hunting, so I said, "Hey, listen, I'll take you hunting if you help me figure out which camera to buy to take really good pictures for our cookbook." Right, it's perfect setup. So
because really the magic in pictures is not about the photographer; it's about the camera.
It's not.
It's the camera.
Of course not.
Of course not. Right. Just like if you want to do well in a bike race, you just get a really good, expensive bike.
It doesn't spend a lot of money on your bike.
Yeah, you don't really need to train at all. You just need to get a expensive bike. Yeah, good,
which
nice.
Is so funny because I obviously don't have that attitude about so many things, but I brought it to the table with photography, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget, we went hunting. I killed my first bear on that hunt, which is awesome. Wow. But we went hunting. We get done. We're coming back to Atlanta. We stop at Waffle House, and he gets his camera out, and we're taking pictures of hash browns. I was like, all right, man. So and he finally goes, look, man. He goes, you. I'll never forget. He says, you asking me what camera to buy to take good pictures is like me asking you what pots and pans I should buy to cook really good food. And I was like,
uh-huh. Exactly.
Yeah. So we negotiated a little deal right there at Waffle House, and Grizz has been great. I mean, he lives in Memphis now. He's an unbelievably talented guy. Does movies, still does a lot of photography, but mostly film now. We've written 3 books, and he's managed throughout his busy schedule to keep up with us. And
wow.
And he does phenomenal work. So we're very, Grizz, if you're listening, we love you, and we're very grateful. For
a recipe book, do you just make the recipe and then call them up and say, hey, come over here and take the picture of this recipe? Like, how do you, I mean, there are logistics involved that seem more daunting than, if I'm doing a book and I just schedule a photo shoot and okay, we're done. But with recipes, it's much different.
Yeah. So I think our biggest day ever was we cooked, prepped, shot, and ate some of 31 recipes in one day.
Wow.
So, because, we got day jobs and busy lives. And actually, we have 2 kids. Scott's 5, Adeline's 3. And book 2 came with Scott, and book 3 came with Adeline. So it's like, yeah.
Wow.
No more kids. I don't know about another book, but no more children.
Gotcha.
They're amazing, but we're done.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was like, all right, let's pick a weekend that works for you, Mark. And I mean, a couple days before he would get there, you prep a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we were very, very proud of this. Every single book and every single picture that's in our books, if you were standing there when the picture was taken, you could have eaten the food.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So, you hear stories about nail polish and hairspray and all that fun stuff. And this speaks a lot to Mark's talent. But we really wanted to commit to, it's going to look as good as real food that you can eat is going to look. And we doctored, you garnish and all that. But yeah, if you look at the picture, if you were standing there when it was taken, you could have eaten it with no probability of food sickness because it was fresh and available.
That's amazing.
Then we'd gorge ourselves for, a couple hours.
You had leftovers for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So have food. We'll work for photos or something.
Okay, a quick brief interruption to remind you that probably one of the best things you can do for your life, whether it's lunches, breakfasts, or dinner, is getting some meals delivered to you. Take the guesswork out of where you're going to go or what you're going to have for dinner tonight and get meals delivered to you from the Good Kitchen. They make high quality food that is either ketogenic or Paleolithic or vegetarian. It's pre-prepared from sustainable sources, organic, and it's delivered via FedEx right to your front door. You can stick it in the fridge, keep it there for a week or 2 weeks, and it's just ready for you. There's no thinking. You go down to your fridge, you open the door, you pull out the meal. Sometimes I don't even heat the meal up. I just eat it right out of the right cold, right out of the package. It's delicious, and there's no thinking. Listen, if you want to give it a shot, and you've never done it before, you can get 15% off your first order. You can use the link thegoodkitchen.com/WLC. Do it. So you got the book done. Did you already have a publisher? Like, how did Rob connect you with the right people?
Rob connected us with his publisher, which is Victory Belt was the publisher of his first book. And so, yeah, it was so weird. It was just surreal. He says that at night, Rob and Nikki say that evening, he's like, I'm going to introduce you to our publisher. And literally the next morning we got an email, it's like, meet Erish and y'all talk about your cookbook. And it's like, holy crap. So,
then when it came out, was it an overnight success? Like what did you have to do to get it going?
It was very successful. It was a good book. It was also, let me think, Sarah Fragoso's book, Everyday Paleo, had just come out not very long before ours. And then prior to that, I want to say Lauren Cordain had a cookbook, the Paleo cookbook. But so we were third or fourth, Paleo themed cookbook on the market. Big, bold pictures. Lauren's book had next to no good pictures. Again, this speaks to Mark's talent. We make our food taste good. He made it look really good.
Yep.
So yeah, we were early to the scene with a very, very starved, forgive the pun, group of folks looking for ideas in the kitchen for, paleo was still pretty young, even in the CrossFit world at that point. So yeah, it was wildly successful, as I would define it.
Did you watch on Amazon, like as it climbed the rankings? Were you into that?
I think we got as high as 20 something, which is pretty good.
Great.
I mean,
jeez.
Yeah. 21 of all books, it was kind of cool. I remember sort of keeping up like a stock ticker, there for the first week. It's like, holy cow, it's still there.
Yeah.
Very surreal. And actually, since that first, couple weeks and other books, and I see what Rob and, the whole 30 folks and Sarah Ballant, there's just so many very talented people in the paleo space, and they've all carved out their niche. But to see some of the books that have come along and just still Nom Paleo is another great example.
Right.
Good Lord, she's
amazing. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. So it's truly awesome to be in that company of folks, be in that universe. And, we're very privileged. So.
Did you immediately know a second book would happen at that point?
We the theme of the book moved around a lot, but I think shortly after, I know I wanted to do another one. I thought it was really fun. The first book was less of a job. It was just sort of a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yep.
The more it gets into second and third,
which was second?
Quick and Easy was
Quick
second.
and Easy, okay.
And then Weeknight Paleo was our third one. That one came out about a year and a half ago.
And what about the Paleo Summer Survival Guide?
Oh, that was an ebook that we sort of threw together in the making of I guess I should count that, in the making of our second book as sort of a teaser, put it out there in the universe. And it's great. I think there's 12 or 15 recipes in the survival guide. It's just sort of some handy dandy summer fun recipes to take to the pool or beach with you. That was actually
it's interesting because we're just embarking on the first ever summer whole life challenge.
I know. I'm thinking of jumping.
I'd love you to. That'd be super cool.
Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
July 7th. Is that right?
Yeah. Talk to me afterwards. I'll send you a coupon code. They'll just get you and your wife, and if you want your kids are too young, really. Although my son, the first time my son did it, he was 9. On our site, it says you're not allowed to do it if you're under 18, which is a legal requirement.
Of course.
But it says if you have permission from your parents, like if you have to certify that you're either 18 or you've got parental consent. And we just guided him. It's been that's a real big challenge for us. We've always wanted to do something for kids and make a game worthy of kids' involvement. Okay. But the hard part is kids just don't have the resources to be responsible for what they eat. They're at the mercy of their parents. They're at the mercy of culture and how do you? We haven't figured out how to do that yet. So our job right now is to get the parents and then let the parents bring the kids. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't really do a version that doesn't include food, but maybe your early kid version focuses on
habits, other habits.
Other habits. Yeah, building other habits. So, I'm excited.
So my original question was, how did you get going in gardening and farming? We went down this other path, which is great. It's not a rabbit hole because it really leads to the start of this question, I think. When did that come in? When did that come into play?
Yeah, so I grew up gardening. My mom's a big gardener. Dad's sort of an outdoorsy. So Dad was the Boy Scout hunting, camping side, and Mom was the garden side. I'm speaking for me, but the Paleo FX scene really sort of ushered us into the farming that we're doing now. So the paleo world, for a couple years, everybody was arguing over protein, carbs, fat, and macros and micros and blah, blah, blah. And then that movement, I want to say it's probably been 3 or 4 years now, that movement started to really move away from that focus and more into food sustainability and access to food. So Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund was all of a sudden a sponsor and had a presence at FX, and Joel Salatin, and I blame Rob. We've gotten to be good friends with Rob and Nikki for a number of years, and Rob got involved, and Alan Savory, the Savory Institute. You start hearing and seeing and meeting people that are out there on the front lines, and you start hearing horror stories about, I guess I would say the challenges that people face when wanting to provide local, healthy, sustainable food. I mean, some of the food laws in this country are abhorrent. Mm-hmm. That was it. We were in Atlanta in the gym and business for a little while, and two young kids. Adeline was just born, and you sit in that traffic every other day, and I'd been reading Joel Salatin, for your listeners, Polyface Farms. He was Omnivore's Dilemma, Michael Pollan's book, and Food Inc. And anyway, he's the lunatic, crazy farmer up in Virginia that we had gotten to interact with through some of these other organizations. We did some cooking things for a Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund fundraiser at Polyface. This would have been probably 2014.
He was in Virginia, right? Or still is?
Yeah, he's in Swoop, Virginia, which is just outside of Stanton.
That chapter with Polyface Farms in that book is definitely my favorite chapter of the entire book. I mean, to hear how he is capable of creating an environment where everything works literally hand in glove together to, waste of this animal. I can't really describe it as well as, this is kind of what you're up to. So we're going to get into that.
Sure.
But, it's just amazing and really, really inspiring. Although it feels overwhelmingly inaccessible to somebody like me, because I live on a 5,500 square foot lot, in the middle of the city. So it is inaccessible to me, really, to do that. I could have version. I could have maybe a version of that.
I think you could have a version of that. Well, I mean, certainly where you are domiciled, you could have some microcosmic version of that. Yeah. But you could also, I mean, you get your car and travel a couple hours. You have access to visiting a ton of stuff that's going on.
In fact, I'm going to be visiting. Oh God, I can't remember. Diana introduced me to him. He runs a chicken farm out in Redlands, I think.
Yeah. Diana's, she's full tilt in her movie right now. Yeah. So she's shaking hands with lots of folks.
I think I actually emailed them the other day, and I'm going to set a day where I can actually go out there because I'm very excited about seeing it.
It's cool, man. Yeah. So Paleo FX sort of led us into this regenerative farming thing. So the background, my family was, our farm here in Tennessee's 150-year-old plus farm, which is a long time in these parts. But we were a dairy farm. So grew up in the sort of the dairy business. Mayfield Dairy is sort of the preeminent brand of milk and ice cream, certainly in East Tennessee, but now much more southeast. And even I heard somebody tell me the other day that they saw Mayfield ice cream in Phoenix, Arizona, which boggles
you just got my attention when you said ice cream. I had no idea, and I am a massive ice cream. It is my kryptonite. I like. God, stop the ice cream. Oh, God.
Yeah. I am extremely happily lactose tolerant. I'll leave it at that.
Got it.
Thank God. Yeah, thank God. So actually, it's kind of funny because that created all sorts of sort of people saying sort of drama, like, I can't believe Charles Mayfield is paleo. I mean, they don't eat dairy. I mean, does he not love his family anymore?
Right.
It's like,
right.
Come on,
right.
Folks, Anyway, so we sort of wanted to get into farming. It's a little harder to do that in Atlanta, and so we picked up and moved up to my hometown. So I moved home after doing the math. I haven't lived here since I was 15 years old. So almost 30 years of being away. So moved home.
Are you in Eastern Tennessee, Western Tennessee?
East Tennessee, okay. Halfway between Knoxville and Chattanooga. It's a little town called Athens. Okay. So we're 2 hours and 15 minutes from Atlanta. We're 3 hours from Nashville. We're 2.5 hours from Asheville. So it's beautiful, beautiful spot. And so we started with a test batch of chickens. I got 60 broilers. I'd been reading Salatin's stuff, for a couple years at that point. You get to a point. I mean, it's probably like opening a gym or anything else. You get to a point. There ain't anything else you're going to learn from a book.
Right. Right.
You got to sort of jump in the water at some point. So we got 60 layers, 60 broilers.
I just want to reiterate something you just said. That is probably the biggest obstacle that people today have is over-researching and under-actioning. The idea that, I got to read this. I got to learn more before I jump into action. And, we discovered that really early on with the Whole Life Challenge. Fortunately, our first product was an a learning product. It was like, learn more about this. It was a 12-week course that you took called Food University. And we're like, yeah, this is great, but nobody's doing anything. Nobody's actually shifting anything in their life. And, how do we inspire people to actually move? Which I love that you just said that, because there's only so much you can get from reading about it. You're the guy on the sideline reading the book, and and you're not on the playing field. So I love that you were able to and willing to take that action, and jump in. Yeah. But were you running? Were you running the dairy farm at the time, or was that a separate?
No. We haven't. No, so we got out of the gym. I ran Atlanta Strength and Conditioning was a gym that I started in Atlanta. Duh. And so found a buyer. It was just, Adeline had just been born, and things. I mean, you ran CrossFit LA for a long time,
Too long.
Yeah, and I always tell people I love it. First of all, I'm a people person. I love being so integrated into. Well, I love most of it. I mean, you really need a master's or a PhD in psychology if you really want to run a gym well. But just playing an integral role in people seeing results and really, just reversing disease, feeling better, looking better, all that was great. But most people want to work out when they're not working. And so you end up, you're working when everybody else isn't. Yeah. And it's early mornings and late evenings and then lunch. And so it's not that it's kind of like farming. It's, I tell people all the time, it's not a ton of work every day, but it's work every day.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's like a gym. You could train for 3 hours a day, a 5:30 a.m. class, a noon class, and a 7:30 p.m. class. And it's like, yeah, it's only 3 hours, but it's the whole day.
Yes. Right.
And so anyway, we moved up here and let's see.
Well, but you didn't take over the dairy and the ice cream business.
No. Our family's business was acquired by Dean Foods many moons ago, 1990, 1991.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
And at that point, the dairy and the farm, which is where we are on the original farm, became separate.
Okay.
So my brother, who does grow some vegetables, used to grow a lot more. He's more of an agritourist now, does like a corn maze and various things like that. He manages the farm, and our little operation is sort of nook and crannied into little spots on the farm that it makes sense. So no, I'm commercial, some personal lines. Insurance is sort of my day-to-day job, hence the bow tie.
That's not your farmer's outfit.
Ironically, I dropped a pig off at a restaurant in Cleveland, Tennessee yesterday afternoon, wearing a bow tie.
I love it.
The chef comes out. So I picked it up from the butcher, so it was done and chilled and in a big bag. It was a 150-pound pig. I mean, it was not a small pig. And I pull up right to their back door. She walks out. I said, "When's the last time somebody dropped a pig off in a bow tie?" She's like, Never.
It's fantastic.
So, anyway, you got to dress the part, man. I can farm in this attire. I just need some boots to make sure my pants don't get dirty.
Yeah, maybe something to cover. Like a
light cover.
Yeah, like the white ones that zip up that you throw away, which it's not so sustainable, and I don't recommend that. But they're super light.
Like a beekeeper outfit. Those are light and baggy. Yep. That would work. That would work. So
okay. So you're back in Tennessee. And you just bought 60 chickens.
Well, that was just to get started. Right. We bought 120 chickens, 60 layers, and 60 meat birds.
Got it.
Those are, for the non-farm knowledge person, you have meat chickens and then you have layers. And the meat chicken is really, it's sort of an industrial bird. It's kind of driven by consumer demand. A heritage breed chicken, one that's usually good at laying eggs, is going to have a razor breast, more dark meat. U.S. consumers like big plump breasts, white meat, all that. So we got 60 broilers, meat birds, just the Cornish cross, and I got 4 different breeds of layers, just to tinker, and 8 pigs, and that's what we started with, and it grew from there. I mean, we're still very, very small, but it grew from there. Basically, we started because we wanted to feed our kids really good food, and Athens does not have a Whole Foods, and when you start penciling out how much you'd spend at Whole Foods for the types of things that we're growing, you might as well try to grow it.
Right.
But yeah, we started, and it's the same amount of time, effort, labor, the whole 9 yards to grow 2 pigs as it is 20. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. It's literally almost the same. Yep. And so it's like, well, let's send some letters out to folks, friends, and family, and say, this is what we're doing. You interested? And so we raised a little bit of money, basically took everybody's money, like a CSA,
Yep.
Consumer Supported Agriculture. So we took everybody's money, threw it in a big pot, gave them full credit for their contributions. And we do this every year. It's our buyers club. So people write us a check. We put it in their farm account. They come to the farm and pick up their meat, whatever they want. It's back there in freezers. And then I deliver 4 trips a year to Atlanta and Chattanooga and Knoxville for our customers there, just 4 times, but they can come to the farm anytime.
Was your idea to do this I know this is not commercial, really. It's very private, but it is kind of commercial in the sense that you have customers and you have people that are investing with you. Was that
Sure.
your idea from the start?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that was the hope.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what the test batch was for. Is like, all right, if we can do better than like 70% mortality, how many chickens are going to be left when we're done with this? And so, it's. I mean, again, I wanted to feed our kids this food. Yep. We'd learned enough. This is part of the reading. This is part of the research, is understanding the benefits of pasture-raised pork versus what you buy in the store. Not only from a health standpoint, which is critically important, but also from an environmental standpoint. A lot of people don't want to talk about that embedded cost of food. So we're doing things to regenerate and build soil. You had Bobby?
Oh yeah, from
Savory
Institute, Bobby Gill.
Yeah. Bobby Gill.
Yeah.
Bobby Pinson. Bobby Pinson is a country music singer that I quail hunted with. Anyway, I said Bobby Pinson. Bobby Gill, I'm sorry. I had 2 Bobbies in my head. Anyway, yes. So we're practicing a lot of the Savory Institute's holistic land management principles. We're so very small right now. I mean, for example, we have cows. And one of the tremendous benefits of cows is the impact and the mobbing that they can do when kept to an appropriate amount of acreage for their daily food intake. When you're grazing them and rotating them. Well, to really mob graze, you need like 100 cows. Well, we have 8. So we're
got it.
So we're mob grazing as best we can. We're just getting started. But again, you get into thinking about it. It's like literally the time and effort it takes to but to manage those 8 cows. It literally might as well be 50.
Right.
I mean, it's the time and energy involved is virtually identical. Now there's some infrastructure, it's not all linear and all that.
Well, it's kind of like it's in the corporate world. It would be like operating a bunch of satellite sales offices with one administrative headquarters. Like you just save yourself all that administrative duplication by having one spot, and it doesn't cost you. It costs you a lot less actually to do it that way.
Correct.
One more brief interruption. I want to remind you that the podcast continues to grow based on your word of mouth. If you heard anything in this podcast that you think one of your friends would be compelled to know about or hear about or learn from, please send them a link to the show. That is the way it grows, one person at a time. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but it's one of those things that's simple and yet not easy. I know it takes effort on your end to actually do that. So thank you in advance for considering to do so. The other way it gets noticed is by reviews on iTunes. The easiest way to do that is to follow this link, bit.ly/Andy Petronic Podcast. It will open up the iTunes app on your computer or your phone and allow you, if you navigate to the review section, to write a review. And if you love the podcast, there's no better way than to get it noticed in the world of podcasting than to write a review. So I thank you in advance for being a listener, and I thank you in advance for all that you do to continue to allow me to serve you and bring you great guests. Let's get back. What do you have now? You've got 8 cows. You've got, what do you got? Chickens and pigs?
We technically have 10 cows, so we have 5 mamas, 3 heifers, which are hopeful mamas one day, but they're too young. And then we have 2 steers, but the steers are out at a friend of mine's house that we're collaborating on our beef together. So we have 10 cows, 8 of them are here. All the girls are here. The boys are out getting ready. We have, let's see, currently 8, 19, 20. We have 21 total pigs, a mama, a daddy, 11 new babies, new being 11 weeks old, and then 8 more feeders that are ready for market or fastly approaching. In fact, I just dropped one off at a restaurant the other day, and I'm picking 3 up from the butcher Friday. So yeah.
What determines ready? Weight or
weight and the customer. So for example, this restaurant wanted a smaller pig because they're doing this sort of La Cachina. They call it I think a Chinese pig box, but it's a cooking. I think it's a Korean. Anyway, it's a box you put a pig in and cook. And you can't have too big a pig or it won't fit in the box.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
So that was sort of if it's just for retail cuts or someone's bought a half or a whole pig from me, we're going to take them to market somewhere between, I would say, 275 and 350 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Live weight.
Yep.
And we generally like to see between 180 and maybe 205 hang weight, which is, they kill it, gut it, hang it. It's, so.
Different weight. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were finishing telling me what you got. You have pigs, you have cows, you've got chickens, I imagine.
We have layer birds right now. It's actually the original group of layers that we started with.
Wow.
So they're coming into their second year. They're 2 years old.
You've only been doing this for 2 years?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Man, you've got a lot going on for a rookie farmer.
Well, yeah.
That's really cool. The reason it occurs to me, not knowing much about this, that it requires, to get where you are, requires years of, starting small and building up. And I know you come from a background at it, but not really, but kind of. And you've been studying it for a long time.
I've been reading a lot of Joel, and I've been reading, let's see, there's Jerry Brunetti, there's Joel, let's see, Seed of the Soul, that's a good one. Fahrenheit 451, PA Yeomans. Anyway, we're in my farming office, not my day job.
Jordan Peterson doesn't reside here, I would imagine.
Oh no, Jordan's in here for sure.
Is he?
I listen. Actually, Jordan's book, 12 Rules for Life, is up at my house.
Right. But I mean, it doesn't really fit into the farming context, does it?
Peterson?
Does it?
How so? How would?
Well, just in the sense that it's not he doesn't really guide you in farming per se. Like when you say you've been studying Joel, and polyface farms and practices of farming, it's not as, it might be from a standpoint of like setting your life up, but not from the standpoint of how do you put pigs and cows and chickens together and help you, create a regenerative farm. Like it's,
well, I mean, Salatin goes through a lot of that. But
that's what I meant. It's not as specific to farming.
But Jordan Peterson, that's a whole different ball of yarn. But a lot of
I didn't mean. Yeah, we're not going down that rabbit hole right now. Not right now. Yeah,
love him. We'll just leave it at that. I saw him speak in Atlanta, by the way.
Oh, cool.
We were close enough to see the expressions on his face. I mean, we were that close.
I've had to pull myself out of, because when I saw you at Paleo FX, we talked quite a lot about it, and I've had to pull myself out of that cave because there's so many other things going on in my world and so many other things I want to be aware of. I was in this exclusive Jordan Peterson listening world for like 4 months, just over and over, like listening to his lectures, reading his book. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of losing touch with reality. Like, I gotta pull out of this, and then I just literally, it's been like 2 months, and I just literally restarted the 12 Rules for Life, and it just becomes so absorbing. And but yeah, I had to take a break.
Yeah. So, yes, there are some books out there that are good sort of how-to guides. And then, you go to a workshop or two, you talk to some other folks. That's one of the amazing things about, these phones and this internet. I mean, YouTube. It just
inspires me that you say, like I'm just blown away. In 2 years, you've gone from nothing to being a regenerative farmer. Like that is so cool. That is so freaking cool. Like, wow.
Well, we're getting there, man.
Because I just feel like, just because I know nothing about doing it other than having read Michael Pollan's book, really. So think about, and it feels like I'd have to go back to college for 4 years to, I couldn't just do this. And what I'm hearing is you could just jump in and start doing it.
Heck yeah.
Right. Which makes it accessible.
Think about when you were 2 years into CrossFit and someone brand new walked into the gym. Like, you're only 2 years in, but you're miles ahead of that other person.
Yes.
And so, if something comes out of our discussion today, I would encourage anyone and everyone to know that you can jump in with a little toe. I mean, it's not a lot of work every day.
But it's every day.
Every day.
That's right. That's right. Like, you got to really set yourself. I think about vacation. Like, how do you go on vacation? I mean, I have trouble getting someone to take care of my dogs. You've got pigs and chickens and cows and greens and, God knows what else.
Well, listen, when I saw you at Paleo FX, that was the longest trip away from the farm I'd had ever.
Wow.
And, I've been mentoring a young kid that's off to college next year. And so he's filling in some chore spots for me right now. So I'm creating a little bit more room, really just to be able to work, on the business, not in it.
Yep.
In many respects, I mean, the day job, the insurance business is a very much a big part and something I'm passionate about. So, and a lot of my customers are more than a half hour's drive away. So I've been able to create basically so what is today? Wednesday?
Today is Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday. Yep. Okay, so from Tuesday morning, chores are mine. From Tuesday morning, he covers Tuesday and Thursday evening, and then he covers Wednesday and Friday morning chores. So, the average daily work week schedule now, I can leave to go drum up business elsewhere and do other things Tuesday morning and not have to worry about animals dying or anything going crazy, relatively speaking, for 36 hours.
Right.
So I got two 36-hour little windows. But you can, the garden's a great example. Again, you can, a window pot, people can start anywhere. Even just growing some fresh herbs. If you like to cook, put some window pots in your window or on your back porch or wherever, and just get some rosemary, thyme, whatever. Just that's a great place to start. And, if your rosemary dies, it's not the end of the world. Animals are a little
different.
A little different in terms of dealing with mortality.
Yes. Yep.
And man, that's
is it chickens, cows, and pigs? Is that it? Because we never finished that.
Okay, yeah. So chickens, cows, pigs, and turkeys. So
okay.
In 2 weeks, we'll do one batch of turkeys, and they're for everybody. The world eats turkey from Thanksgiving to Christmas, basically.
Yep.
Real, turkey, not turkey bacon. So we'll have one batch of turkeys that'll show up the second week of July, and then 8 weeks after they show up, our second batch for the year of broilers, meat birds, will show up, and that'll be about 300.
Wow!
And
are they little chicks?
Oh, they're day old. So you get them in the mail.
What?
Yes.
Come on, FedEx drops them off in your front door.
The United States Postal Service.
In what do they come in?
There is an old law or some regulation.
This is better than like a stork delivering a baby.
So that's the problem with chickens. See, you can outrun your infrastructure. You can get out over your skis because all you got to do is just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I'll take some more chickens," and they're
wow.
Yeah. So anyway, they show up. So the hatcheries, they hatch these birds, and it's literally so when when a chicken is hatched, it has 72 hours of nutrients from the yolk, from its shell. It doesn't need anything for 72 hours. It will survive for 72 hours. So these hatcheries, they've got these little cardboard ventilated crates, and they come 42 a box, man. Just pick you up the phone and get you 40 chicks.
What does it cost to get 40 chicks? I'm just curious. Is it $1 a chick? Is it $5 a chick?
It depends.
Less?
It depends on the chick. Depends on the chick. If it's a layers are cheaper or more expensive than these Cornish cross meat birds. It just depends on the chick. It depends on how many you order. If you buy 500 at a time, they're a lot cheaper than buying 5. I'm
not doing that. Sorry.
No, you should. You should.
500 chicks. That seems insane.
So
one chick would be insane in my house, but yeah. I wanted a chicken for a long time. My wife used to work at home, and so that was out. And then before she stopped working at home, she laid down turf in the back because our backyard was kind of a muddy mess.
Smart.
And it was the entrance to her business, and it, I never really liked it because it feels very. It eliminates most of the real natural ground where you can go out and run your feet through the grass or through the dirt. But she won out in that regard. And so now there really isn't a place, nor do I think that even though she's not working in the backyard anymore, I don't think that would go so well in my house. But you never know. Down the road.
Let's see. Well, so no, maybe not chickens for you. Maybe it's a rabbit.
Right. There you go. Yeah, but then you're dealing with the it's not like cutting parsley, even chickens are not like cutting parsley.
No. So I do generally at this point I do hire out my slaughtering needs.
Yep.
Sort of a funny story, not really funny, I guess, but when we ordered our layer birds, when you order chicks, here you go, you get a chicken ordering lesson. When you order laying chickens, you can order them in straight run, female, or male. Now, obviously, if you want layers, you would order all female. Well, sometimes due to demand, they might only have straight run available. So when I ordered our laying chickens, three of the four breeds I ordered were only available in straight runs. So when we got 60 chickens, we have 35 laying hens now. So when we got our original 60 chicks, there were like 22 roosters in there. And you don't realize that until they get a little older.
You mean they didn't know either?
Well, they don't.
When they
it's just they can sex. You can sex chickens. There's some talent to it, and in some breeds, like the females and males are completely different colors when they hatch, so it's very easy to sex them. But but yeah, with a straight run, this one hatched, throw it in the box, and you don't know what you're getting. And
roosters, from what I understand, I mean, I have very rudimentary knowledge of chickens and stuff, but you don't want a lot of roosters. I mean, like they will run around and kill things and fight.
Well, first of all, they're loud.
Yeah.
The hens don't make hardly any noise at all. The roosters,
right.
we have three roosters. I kept one rooster from each breed, and you've heard the term pecking order. That is real, because we have boss rooster, guy in the middle, and low on the totem pole. And the kid's name, Blondie, is low on the totem pole. Red is in the middle, and we have a black Australorp who's top boss, and they call him Boss. The kids call him Boss. There's Boss, and I'm not kidding you. And they have spurs on them. I mean, these spurs. Are 2 inches
my buddy mine
long.
has. Yeah, right. Yeah, and they're like talons, right? They're like inside their.
Well, I mean, if you've ever seen a cockfight, they jump up in the air, and so I had Scott with me doing farm chores. This has been a couple. This is back when it was sort of wintry, and we still had the chickens in their winter quarters, which was sort of a hoop house with a netting, right? Mm-hmm. And so it had this poultry netting. Well, Blondie, the third rooster on the totem pole, had figured out how to run a couple of the girls out of the fence, and then he'd follow them out. So now he's on the outside of the fence with a couple of dames, right? And
nice.
He's the king. I mean, they're so incredible to watch. And so, he's figured this out. And literally for 4 or 5 straight days, I'd go down there. There's 2 hens out with Blondie, and he's over there just strutting around, Mr. Big Time. Yep. So Scott's down there with me, and I pull the fence back, and I'm like, all right, let's just see if we can shush them back in, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting this ready. Well, Scott walks around the corner, and he's chasing these 2 hens. Well, Blondie climbed his back like a spelunker. I mean, she climbed, or he climbed up his back and jabbed him 3 or 4. Brought blood in 2 places. So I'm sitting around there, and all of a sudden, Scott is
screaming.
Oh my God! And I'm like, holy shit, what happened? And I'll go around.
Right.
Blondie attacked me. And sure enough, brought blood, like 2 spots on his legs. I'm like,
wow.
So now, if Scott's with me, I give Scott permission to kick at Blondie. Because we had a really good lesson that day. I was like, listen, son, sometimes Blondie's going to want to hurt you, and you got to turn around and stand your ground. You got to show him that you're strong. And so every time we go see the chickens now, Scott's like, where's Blondie? I'm going to show him I'm strong.
Yeah, but he doesn't do that with Boss.
Boss is on the top, man. It's like the lion. Boss is Boss
on top of you guys too? Like, he's got to know that you're boss. You're boss.
Yeah.
You're big boss.
Alpha chicken right here with no wings, and then Boss. But he's smart enough. He won't even let me near him.
Huh?
Red, the number 2 one. I don't understand it. I can just walk right up, pick Red up, pet him. It's all good.
Wow.
Blondie knows I'd wring his neck, so he gets away from me. But it's so anyway. The term pecking order, it is so real. We had a crooked beak. Yeah, it's so funny. You let the kids name him. We had a chicken with a crooked beak, and it's a birth defect, hatch defect, whatever, genetic defect.
Yep.
And so it couldn't eat as well, obviously, as the rest of the birds, but it was like the family favorite to the kids because it was Crooked Beak. It was easily identifiable.
Yes, right.
You call it that, right? Well, Crooked Beak didn't eat as much. Crooked Beak was pretty weak, and the other hens, I witnessed it. They just beat her to a pulp.
Really?
Oh, you're out. I mean,
wow.
So I went down there one day, and Crooked Beak's no longer with us. Had to explain that to the kids. Crooked Beak's no longer here.
How do the kids do with that?
They do surprisingly well.
Huh.
Well,
I would think that'd be hard. Like slaughtering and when you're doing it for meat and you're which is really the purpose of having non-laying hens and pigs and cows.
Sure.
And then there's the natural thing that happened with Crooked Beak. I would think that'd be hard.
I guess it could be. I mean,
yeah.
This. You have kids. They're way stronger than you think they are, and so many. They're way smarter. They're just so. And we've never shied away from the conversation. I mean,
right.
Eating bacon at breakfast. I asked them, where did the bacon come from? It came from our pigs. So we're sort of constantly reinforcing it. They haven't. I'm trying to think if they've witnessed actual death. They've witnessed dead things. I mean, when I take them out in the field, when you've got broilers out in the field, you'll find a dead bird every 2 days. I mean, they just die. They're fragile little beings.
Yep.
But I hunt. So, Scott's been with me when I've shot a deer. I mean, he's full on witnessed that. And they love the taste of deer. So it's like, I guess
they get it. They understand
what has to happen. So
I would imagine it might be harder for a city kid who's not around that to, especially if they haven't been brought up in it, to, like, by the time they're 15, they might have established some sort of,
Oh, sure. Well, yeah. I mean, you've got, by 15, you've got so many preconceived notions about the world. So I suppose. I mean, the nice thing about, even the big city, you can go find this stuff. I can't wait to hear about your chicken farm visit because
I can't wait. I'm really awesome. Excited. Yeah.
But it's certainly more challenging for no different than how challenging would it be for a country kid to wrap their brain around taxi cabs, or.
But there's something about being connected to our food supply, and I'm speaking theoretically because I'm not. I like the idea of it, but I've never witnessed the slaughtering of a chicken. I've never I've read a lot about it. I've never been hunting, actually, which is kind of strange.
We gotta change that, man.
Yeah, no, I know. I've been talking about that for a long time, and I've always wanted to. I was a Marine. I know how to shoot, but a buddy of mine from the Marine Corps tells me, he's like, Andy, I know you know how to shoot, but it's different when you're shooting an animal, another living, breathing thing. So there is I think that being connected to our source is a really valuable piece of being human. And, I wish I was connected to it more. I don't wish it enough to right now to be taking regular action toward doing it, but perhaps it's in my future.
Well, you have a lot of awareness on the subject. I think that's a big start, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think part of if you looked at the overall, I would call it maybe a health epidemic in our country. A part of it, back to a lot of what we talked about today. Part of it is people are completely disconnected from their food. Where it comes from. People are overly reliant on, let's just say, food companies to deliver said food to them in whatever package with whatever ingredient. People don't cook anymore, and not that they have to, but I mean, you got folks like the Good Kitchen and some of these other True Fare. I mean, even Blue Apron and all these other. I'm happy to see that they're out there that gives people an option, but man, it's so cool when imagine, you talk about completing the circle. Imagine growing it, killing it, which I have done, and cooking it. It's like I was so distraught over Anthony Bourdain and just such a really cool guy. But I mean, he was a big proponent of just getting connected with food and all that. So.
How does the regenerative farming work in your little microcosm, your farm? Like, what is the cycle? So
if I were to create like a broad definition of like holistic land management, regenerative farming, it is, in my opinion, these are my words, it is utilizing natural ecosystems to their fullest advantage. So, for example, how does it work here? Animals move. That's probably the first big premise. Is all of our animals are free to express their animalness. So pigs love to run. Pigs love to.
Does that mean it's just complete chaos?
No,
like animals everywhere?
It's there. I shepherd them along. Okay, so our cows have single wire electric fence. Our pigs have this electric poly netting. So we use a very inexpensive, very lightweight electric netting to basically act as the gas pedal and brake of our orchestra, of our system. Okay, and generally speaking, the way it would ideally work is herbivores and omnivores. Herbivores would be followed by omnivores. So cows come in, graze the grass, poop everywhere. They leave. Flies come in and are attracted to the poop, and then they leave. And then, like a day or two later, the chickens come in where the fly larva has hatched. They spread the poop out all over the ground, and so they
eat the fly larva.
Oh gosh, yeah. So it's free food, right?
Right.
So pigs
and the poop gets spread.
It's
and then that's fertilizer.
Just pre-earth. It's just soon to be dirt.
And fertilizer for grass, more grass growing.
Absolutely. So chickens poop is very high in nitrogen, and so you hear a lot about nitrogen, fertilizers and nitrogen this and nitrogen that. It's really kind of awesome. We've had some really heavy rains here. I don't have birds out on pasture right now, but the birds are in these 10 by 12 chicken tractors is what we call them. And you put so many birds to a tractor because you don't want to overcrowd them. And it moves every single day. So they don't sit in their poop for more than a day. They get fresh grass, fresh water, fresh air, fresh sunshine every single day.
Is it a like a fenced in box?
It's a constructed, let's see, it's 10 by 12 by 2 feet tall. And it's got one end is open. I mean, if you just Google Polyface Farm chicken tractor, I use his design. There's a million different designs out there. This one works for me. Gotcha. So yeah, it's a playpen. It's an enclosed structure that keeps them. Chickens, especially the turkeys and meat birds, find the most creative ways to die you could ever imagine. And so, what you're trying to do is it's like a baby in a playpen, right? It's not a prison. It's a well thought out confinement area to allow that baby, or in this case the chicken, or in this case the pig or the cow. All I'm doing is creating a confined area that allows them to express their natural pigness, chickenness, cowness, turkeyness, and maximize the positive impacts on the ground. So pigs are the best example. My pigs generally go into a paddock for about a week, and then they go to a new paddock. If I leave them in there longer than a week, they just absolutely tear it to shreds.
A paddock is just the area, the playpen.
Yeah, basically. It's the playpen, and it's
a square. Is it like the chickens that moves around by itself, or do you have to? I move it. You move it.
So it's interconnected. Think about 4 independently put in the ground 100-foot sections of fence.
Okay.
And I don't have 4 of them. I have 9 of them. So I can build one and then a common wall and build another and then a common wall. So I can technically build 3 paddocks in a row. Okay. Portable food, portable water, So you build the first one, they're there. Let's just say they're there for 5 days and we get a really heavy rain. Well, they love to make wallows, right? so 5 days in, really heavy rain, maybe I'll move them 5 days in. Then maybe they're in this, but they're usually only allowed to stay in one place for no more than a week.
And do you have to, can you just slide these around, or do you have to actually build a new section?
No, it's a completely portable. I mean, think about like 9 interconnected stakes, long 2-foot stakes with a sharp pointy end, and woven into those stakes is a 4-wire net.
Okay.
That's electrified, and you just set it up, plug them all together. The thing's only 18 inches off the ground. It's not very tall, but I mean, if you know, a pig's head's down here.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
And you got to get a pig fence really hot because pigs are smart. They're smarter than dogs. It's unbelievable. I can go out there right now and start scratching one of my pigs on the bottom, and it would roll over and want me to scratch its belly. And how smart are they? I had to give a pig a shot one time, right? And the pig that I had to give a shot to did not enjoy that very much. Mm-hmm. It took 4 months before that pig would let me touch it again.
Wow.
And 2 months before it would even turn its back on me. I mean, they're smart, man.
Wow.
They're smart. And you can keep, I mean, this is the amazing thing about a lot of this. When you hear the word technology, farmers 40, 50, certainly 100 years ago, but 40 or 50 years ago would absolutely kill for this fencing. It's lightweight. It's very portable. It's very durable. The Energizer I'm using to charge it, I just use a deep cycle boat battery. So that's, again, everything's portable. I could pick up, my dad's like, you're out of here, Buster. Well, we'll just put everything on a trailer and go find another farm that'll let me farm it, right? So it's very portable, lightweight infrastructure. But the technology of these Energizers, you had a direct current Energizer 15, 20 years ago for electric fence. It was constantly on. So if a branch got on it, you'd start a fire. Or, I mean, there's all sorts of bad stuff. Well, this thing's got a computer chip in it. It stores a bigger charge so it can pull the energy, store it, and let it pop. And, pigs are smart, so you want their first experience with the fence to be a memorable one. And then you're good.
But how do you know when that's going to be? How do you know when to make it charge high and
Oh, no, it's on all the time.
Oh, it is.
It's on and hot and high all the time. I mean, it's got a little indicator, so when the battery starts to get low, I swap the batteries out and all that.
But how does it prevent starting a fire with a tree that falls on it?
Because it stores the charge and then releases it. Instead of a constant electrical flow, it's a stored charge, pop. So it's not. It'd be like if you wanted to light a candle, you'd want to have the lighter or the match on all the time. If you just started it, you'd never light that candle. You need a constant source. So I mean, it's brilliant. It's so, and again, it's one of those like take this stuff for granted.
Yeah. And do you have a similar setup for the cows?
Yeah, single wire. Huh. It's probably 2.5 feet off the ground.
Yep.
And they know exactly where it is, even when it's not on. They can see it and know exactly where it is, and they avoid it because they. And
how long do they stay in a spot in a section?
What I'm doing right now, because I have hands in many pies. What I'm doing right now is I'm setting up a full week's worth of area for the cows. And then I'll cross-section that off, usually 4 cross-sections off to open up more of it for them. And so over the course of that week, they'll get fresh grass, but the waterer doesn't have to move. I'm hauling my water right now. So that's a big downside to current system is I gotta transport water.
Oh man.
Water's heavy. Job. Yeah. 1,000-gallon tank of water is 4 tons. It needs a big tractor to do that. Right. So it's all good. And that's part and parcel with why we don't have more cows. Is more cows would drink more water, which would mean I'd have to go fill that thing up more. And so,
how do they do that? How would you solve that if you had more cows? Would you have some sort of a system built?
Yeah, we would probably ultimately what you do is you either have well water or build ponds to gravity feed, but you just bury black pipe in a network pattern. And so, you got black pipe. If you've got a spigot, let's just say, available to you every 300 or 400 feet, that's enough, because you can go buy garden hose to get you in the nooks and crannies.
Yep.
In between all of that. So yeah.
How long does it take a piece of land to you to get the cows back to the same piece of land they're on today? Like, what's the cycle time?
I would say that the cycle time shouldn't be any faster than 40 days. You want to let it rest a good.
That's faster than I thought. Yeah, that's faster than I thought.
And what's amazing is, I mean, if you really think about where the deepest, richest soils in the United States, just think about where they are. It's in the Midwest, the Corn Belt, and it was built. I mean, Bobby probably touched on this in his interview with you. It was built by herding buffalo, followed by birds. So, and they didn't sit and graze in the same spot all the time because they had lions and tigers and bears on my that were ready to hunt them. So I'm acting,
and they're moving around.
I'm acting as the predator, if you will, in terms of animal management. They can't stay here very long, and then it needs time to rest before they come back. And so 40 days that will lengthen if there's less rain. It will shorten if there's more rain potentially. But I would say 40 to 50 days is enough time for it to rest from cows. Now, you could run chickens in there, say, after that, but you wouldn't want to – and once it gets too tall, you can't run anything in there until you let the cows come back in there and mow it.
Right.
And so, with the pigs, it's usually at least a 6 to 8 week rest. I tell you, that would be – Andy, I'll see if I can dig up some pictures and send them to you, but you would be amazed at how horribly torn up a paddock looks the day the pigs leave, and how explosively grown out and fully expressed it looks a month later.
Really?
I mean, it looks like not a moonscape per se, but see, here's the interesting thing. Like, birds fly over, you have this latent seed bank. Seeds are sitting on the ground all the time, right?
Yep.
Well, if nothing's there to turn the soil over and to put that seed in the ground, not on top, but in the ground, then it's never going to sprout. What does a pig do? Comes along,
pushes it down into the ground,
sticks that little nose in the ground and flips it over. It's fascinating. So, and to be able to witness this, I'm barring very rare exceptions, I'm here every day. And you asked me about vacation. I mean, Paleo FX was great. I'm glad I was there. I got to see you, and here we are talking today. Man, you want to know what my best vacation idea I can imagine right now is? Right now, it'd be to grab my kids and go to the backside of the farm, pitch a tent, start a fire, and just chill, man. I mean,
Yeah. That's cool.
We have all we need. Now there's want and need, and obviously we want to expose our children to all sorts of aspects of the world. But man, I don't need a vacation. I just need to go ride a tractor for a few hours and do some work. It's all good.
Well, I wanted to ask you, in the time that we have left, how do you keep your life working? Like you, Charles, father, husband, author, cookbook, chef, and farmer, and insurance salesman. How do you keep all that together? What are the things that allow you to do that?
I knew you were going to ask this. I've done my homework. So I don't know that I'm keeping it all together very well right now.
Okay.
So that's an admission.
When something drops out, what tends to be the thing that drops out for you?
Working out.
Okay.
that working out and or meditating. I sort of talk myself into watching the sunrise, doing chores in the morning with, just being outdoors is sort of it's a meditative experience, if you will.
Yeah.
So
and you could make an argument that just farming is working out.
Absolutely.
So for a lot of people, that is the workout.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm very active. I don't hit my high heart rates as much as I'd like to. I am tinkering with a little Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So,
in your spare time,
in my spare time, they have a 5:30 a.m. class, and the only thing that gets in the way of 5:30 a.m. is sleep. So I try and get to bed early enough to give myself, at least 7 hours. That's sort of my general target. I try to eat really well. We talked about ice cream earlier. Every now and then, you gotta do what you gotta do. But I try to eat. I haven't tested it just because I don't have the bandwidth to do it. But I'm probably fairly ketogenic most of the time. It's a lot of fat, fair amount of protein, not a lot of carbs.
When you do carbs, what are your sources? Are they mostly veggies, fruits,
mostly veggies, some fruit, and ice cream. But no, I don't do that much ice cream, but I do enjoy it. And this time of year, my goodness, I mean, the garden's popping. It's greens, it's tomatoes, it's squash.
Now, do you do garden too, or is that your wife?
We have a garden.
Got it.
I did all the construction. And she does most of the harvesting, and so we're actually in the process of hitting that. How in the world are we going to eat all this phase?
I was just going to ask you, what do you guys do? Do you provide that as part of your CSA?
No.
Do you? No. So what do you do with all the food and keep it from going bad? Do you can it? Do you?
We do some canning.
Pickle.
Yeah, we do some canning. Some of it just goes to sprouts out, when a broccoli or kale or something, they'll just sprout out. And honestly, when that happens, you just pull it out of the ground, take it down to the pigs, and they love it. Right. Oh, they love it. But we'll can some. You give some to people, give it away. I mean, that's
Who does the meal planning in your house and the cooking?
Julie does a good bit of that. I do a little bit of it. Mostly I'm sort of a protein guy. So, for example, I just pulled a bunch of protein. She was out of town last week. Anyway, so I'll pull a bunch of protein out and cook it. And then it's sort of like, all right, here's a bunch of meat. See what you can drum up to go with that meat.
Do you cook it in big batches, or do you cook it each day? How do you guys manage your preparation?
It depends. I mean, you got 2 young kids too. So this weekend I cooked a huge batch of these, gluten-free chicken nuggets. Basically a week's worth of chicken nuggets for the kids. Done. And
how do you cook chicken nuggets? Do you fry them?
Fry them in pig lard.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
You have a deep fryer?
No, we just would have like a Le Creuset big, Dutch oven, and put half inch of. You're not dunking them. You're sort of fry and flip. It's like
it's deeper. It's deeper than a pan fry, but it's not as deep as a deep fryer.
Correct.
Right.
So
and these are not chicken nuggets like pieces of chicken from God knows where. These are your.
Well, you take your
chicken
and you cut it into nuggets.
Yep.
So, and occasionally, we do get store-bought chicken from time to time. It's actually kind of good to do that because it keeps you really connected to how much better ours is.
Right.
But pork, because to some degree our customers come first. So pork usually we can eat all the pork we want because we're long on pork. Beef, we have to be careful because customers want that.
Yep.
And chicken too. So let's see. Any other secrets to performing well? Gosh, man.
How do you keep yourself organized? Like, it just occurs to me that a lot of the things that you're doing require planning. They require being very organized. Like you're organizing your buckets of things that are required.
Yeah. I was really fortunate many years ago. I got plugged into, and I'm still using quite a bit of his stuff. Tommy Newberry's a life coach down in Atlanta. He runs a group called the 1% Club, and so I brought forward into the present day some of the stuff from there. I mean, I've read David Allen's. I think you had him on as
I did. Yep.
Yes, really brilliant guy. What's funny is I still don't think I've found the system that works for me. Yeah. It really hasn't. I mean, I'm making it along. Things are.
What is your system? Because you have a system, whether you identified it or not.
Sure.
There is a system.
Well, I mean, right now it's Gmail calendar and handwritten. I have
like lists.
Well, yeah. This is sort of the adaptation. I'll pull it out because I got it here. So this is the adaptation of what I used to do with Tommy. And it's, there's the week. Here's the up to 18 things that got to get done. Here's the 5 people that I gotta, this week I'm seeing this person or talking to this person, and for this reason, grading out last week. How'd you do? Tommy always talks about your genius. That's your special gift. And so, how'd you do with your gift? How'd you do in your relationships with your kids, finances, rest, joy, love, all that fun stuff. And so you evaluate each week, and then you plan the following week at the same time. I try to do it at the same time. Yeah.
And you do that on Sunday night? Do you do it on Saturday?
It varies. It varies between either Friday or Sunday.
Okay.
And I don't have a system. Usually what happens is because Fridays can be a little bit dicier than Sundays. So, let's just say I'm at work and things have settled down, and I feel if I feel on Friday like we're done, I'll sit down and start motoring through it. Mm-hmm. If I don't, chances are I got a big Saturday ahead, or Friday's just nuts, then I'll circle back up on Sunday and make sure it gets done. Now,
right.
I've missed weeks. Nobody's perfect. But it keeps you just connected enough. And the farming, I'm still working on systems for the farm.
I just want to go back to one thing that you're doing that I really like, and that is, which I fall short in quite regularly, which is doing the post-week work, which is looking back over the week. You plan it, and then you go back at the end of the week and go, how did I do? And, I think David Allen calls it the weekly review. Mm-hmm. And I fall flat in that so regularly that I think it's such an important part, because it keeps you abreast of, I tend to make projects and they fall into these buckets, and then the buckets disappear. They just disappear out of my consciousness. And then I'm like, whatever happened to it? Oh yeah, I was working on that. It's been like 6 weeks since I even saw it.
Yeah.
And that's where I struggle. So I love that you're doing both in one fell swoop. That's a really cool practice.
So there's 18 potential, there's the 5 people, and there's the 18 things that could get written down, right? Mm-hmm. And I have 3 marks that I can put in the box next to those things: a check, an X, or a forward arrow. And I give myself any week, I give myself 4 forward arrows. So here's something that I thought I might want to get done. I'm giving myself permission to not do it this week. So I might arrow something on a Tuesday, because I try and look at it every day. It's like, I was feeling spry on Sunday or Friday, and this felt like a really good idea. And all of a sudden there's a fire I got to put out over here. I'm going to just go ahead and kick this thing into next week. And so I give myself that freedom, and also committed to, you can't do this but more than 4 times any week. And so,
and these 18 things are not projects. They're individual to-dos.
Oh gosh. Let's see if I can, this is so embarrassing.
Like, how do you keep track of projects that have multiple steps?
Oh, good.
Like a big thing that's got 27 to-dos inside of it.
Yeah. That is the 90-day planner that is behind it.
All right, so you have a system. Come on, man. This is pretty good. The more I ask, the more I find out.
Yeah.
Mr. I don't really, don't know how I do this.
Well,
it's magic.
No,
this is not magic.
I'm rolling over and exposing my belly here. I haven't visited my 90-day in too long. It's been too long.
In 270 days.
No, it hadn't been that long. But, let's see here. Yeah, it's like drop a pig at the restaurant. That was one of my to-dos.
Uh-huh.
It's done. I got to review something for
That's
a
in your
client.
90. That's in your 90 day.
No, that's in my
that's in
this
your
week.
That's in your got it.
Yeah. Here's one for you. I have to castrate pigs this week.
Oh my.
3 of them.
What do you use, rubber bands? How do you do
No,
that?
you cut. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Rubber bands are the most inhumane freaking thing ever.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
A woman was giving me a hard time a while back about, well, isn't that because our first cows? Gosh, how are we doing? I don't want to take.
We're doing good.
Okay.
We got to wrap in like 5 minutes.
All right.
So
our first cows were pregnant cows. That's what I bought. I bought pregnant cows. By the time they showed up on the farm, we had four babies and 2 pregnant cows. We had started with 6. So we had 2 cows that were born on the farm, which is really cool, right? Well, we had 3 boys and 3 girls. You're like, yeah, we got to fix the boys. So I looked up some videos. I called my local vet, that's a friend of mine for years. I said, listen, we got to do this. Bought a lasso on Amazon, recounted my lassoing lessons, bulldogged these 3 things in the field.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was telling this story, and I put some of it on social media because you don't want to be too crazy. But this lady was giving me a hard time. She's like, you should really ban them. And I said, how would you feel if you had breast cancer? How would you feel if the doctor said, instead of cutting your breast off, we're going to wrap a rubber band around it, and we're just going to wait until it cuts all the circulation off, and eventually that thing's just going to fall off. It'll be painless, totally painless. Or would you rather have him go, we're going to cut that whole damn thing off right now, and you won't have to deal with it again? And that's the truth. That's the truth about there's no nerves actually inside the testicles. So you get a really sharp knife, you cut it open. They also heal faster. They're young. You make a clean cut, you pull the testicles out, you feed them to the chickens. Don't tell my customers that, but chickens will eat anything, man. They love it. Or you cook them up for your family. They're Rocky Mountain oysters in the case of pigs. But yeah, you pull that thing out, you spray it with betadine, heals right up, no problem. If you put a
do you knock the pig out?
No.
Like, how do you make sure the pig's not kicking and screaming and hollering?
It's a little pig, and it is kicking and screaming and hollering.
Okay.
And if you've never been around a pig that kicks and screams and hollers, it is the most blood-curdling noise. I mean, it's like, you ready? It's like, only louder.
Wow.
But they calm down. Mama's the one you got to worry about because she hears baby crying and she comes.
Yeah, right.
And daddy too, but he's less. Mama's about 650 pounds. Daddy's about 800.
How do you keep from getting hoofed, like by the baby?
So we use the barrel method. So we take a 55-gallon barrel. They go head first in the barrel. It's a 2-man job. They go head first, and imagine like you're doing like like you're leaning over a pull-up bar or something, and the bar is in your hips, right? So you lean them in the barrel, and you pull their legs back out. So that's one man's job, is to drop them in the barrel. It's just open barrel. It's not water or anything. And you pull their legs out, and it just there they are. There they are. And you just you get a scalpel, and they hold them down, and there's a little.
They're hanging. They're kind of hanging.
Yeah.
Or they're are they hanging like straight down or on an angle?
They're hanging head down.
Head down, yeah.
Butt up, and the legs are folded out. And
when you did this the first time and you'd never done it before, were you nervous? Did you?
Yeah, and and I had the person who I bought these pigs from that had done it before come show me. And he showed me we had to castrate 5 the last time, and he did the first 2 and the first 3, and I did the last 2. And it's been a long time since that first time, and so this is hey man, it'll be fine.
Second nature. So this is that's on your to-do list this week.
That's on the to-do list this week, and
right.
It's on the to-do list this week because the almanac says that the 26th of June through the 29th of June are the best days to castrate an animal. Go figure. They have
How does it know that?
It's the almanac, man. It's the farmer's almanac.
So you wait until those 3 days of June to castrate your pigs?
No.
Or any animal?
No. What I do is I have a failed attempt at castrating pigs, and I tell a friend of mine, and then he looks at me and goes, well, did you look at the signs? And I said, what signs? He goes, you got to read the almanac, man. So I would have looked at the road signs. What road? Are there's a road sign that says castrate pigs? What? Man, we're in East Tennessee. You got to look at the signs, man. And I will tell you, there's a lot of wisdom in the farmer's almanac that applies to city folk life too.
Really,
it's pretty interesting stuff.
So is that on your recommended reading list?
Gosh. Recommended reading list. Yeah, I would say the Farmer's Almanac is a good reference guide. It would be like saying the dictionary and a thesaurus are on your list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that a segue into my next question?
No, I was just curious. I mean, it could be though. Like what if somebody got inspired by hearing this podcast and wanted to try their efforts at building something, whether it's a vegetable garden or more meat based regenerative farm, where would you point them? I mean, I know you've talked about Joel Salatin a lot, but what would you?
Yeah, no, Joel's good. Darby Simpson and Diego Footer. Diego started a Permaculture Voices. It's a podcast, and he did some conferences. So he's got a couple of different podcasts now. Grass-Fed Life, Farm, good resource. Diego Footer and Darby Simpson. Let's see. Grass-Fed Life is one. Oh, see, there's your Megan Marone podcast. Yeah, listen to it. Let's see. Hold on. Sustainable Dish. Diana Rogers. Her book Homegrown, I think is a wonderful book as sort of it lays out a good map of all the different things you might do. So if you're looking for ideas, Diana's book's a great one. Farm Small, Farm Smart. That's another one of Diego's podcasts. YouTube, Google, this. You have to be careful because there's so much crap out there. So anything that Diego Footer puts out, I'd put my stamp of approval on that. John Siskovich. Most of this are meat folks. Diana's books, she gets a little bit more into growing stuff in homegrown, so that's a good resource. But yeah, that's a good starting point.
Cool. What's next on the agenda for you in terms of either going on with your farm, any new things, or in writing? Or do you guys have another book planned?
Haven't talked about. Haven't really solidified anything on the book front. I have a couple of ideas unrelated to cooking that I've tinkered around with. Just making notes. Brainstorming. I have been playing around with making fuel. So making distilling fuel, and that's pretty interesting stuff. And then I've got a couple of projects with some friends around repurposing and utilizing some of the byproducts of farming. For example, the lard, that I mentioned lard. We have a bunch of lard, and it's a phenomenal cooking fat. I mean, it's leaf lard especially, phenomenal cooking fat. And we're slowly dripping into sort of making our customers aware of that. But we have a lot of lard, and you render it, and Lord, you can make soap. You can make all sorts. I have a test batch of soap right now that's still curing. So I'm always sort of, geez, man, I'm tinkering with something all the time. So,
sounds like it's fun place to grow up in your house.
It has its moments. It has its moments. So, anyway.
Charles, thank you so much for spending the time. I always feel like when I'm very conscious of time with my podcast, because I realize that most podcasts with regular listeners are relatively short. Like they can be listened to in one sitting, perhaps, like one commute, or if you're commuting less than 45 minutes or whatever. And I'm always in the mindset that, okay, I'm going to hold this podcast to an hour. And I've never made it. I've only made it in the cases where someone gives me a hard stop. Like when I had Dr. Eugene Kim on, or Jason Kim, sorry. Or Dr. Perlmutter on, and they were like, look, you got 55 minutes, and that's all I got. But I get so wrapped up in these conversations and I like that about podcasting. So I'm really struggling with how do I do this and still have these really deep and meaningful and really cool conversations with people and hold them to a duration that is more useful for people. And I don't know that I can. I don't know. It just might not be what I'm doing. I'm not sure. It's something I'm thinking about a lot these days. And I was thinking today, like before we got on the phone, okay, this one I should be able to keep this under an hour and we'll be good. And we're at hour 45. Like it just, shit. And I loved every minute of it.
Well, I don't listen to a lot of his stuff, but I do listen to some of it. But the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about Joe, and this is a compliment to sort of the way it ran today, was I always feel like he's having a conversation with his guests. Yeah. It's not preconceived. I mean, obviously we had some goals to cover when we got on today, but I like that about his show. And you've got a great audience. I'm a new participant in your audience. I was so glad to see you at Paleo Effects, because it reconnected me with a guy I used to watch a lot of in the early CrossFit days. So, but yeah, whatever you do with this podcast, I've been really enjoyed it and honored to come on. Whatever you do, you're going to have people that love it.
Or not.
Or not.
And that's great. Yeah. And that's great.
As long as you're having fun, my friend.
Exactly.
That's what's important.
Hey, it's Andy, and thanks so much for listening. If you want to know more about what I'm learning each month, head over to andypetronic.com and subscribe to my monthly newsletter. If you were touched, moved, or inspired by anything you heard today, chances are someone else you know would be too. Please take a moment to think about who and send them a link to this episode. And if you're super stoked, please head over to iTunes to write a review. The best way to keep current on guests and episodes is to subscribe so that the latest one will automatically get delivered straight to your phone. The apps I use for this are Apple Podcasts, Overcast, or Pocket Casts. The Andy Petronic Podcast is produced by our team, Winslow Jenkins, Becca Borowski, and Ernie Hurtado. Big thanks to Nikki Grudadaria for the artwork. You can find all of our episodes, links, and complete show notes at wholelifechallenge.com/podcast. I'm Andy Petronic. Thanks for listening.